Ty Cobb, the former attorney of Donald Trump, he, during a recent interview with Aaron Burnett on CNN, he predicted that Trump will go to jail, so presumably be convicted in regard to the classified documents investigation. Jack Smith leading that on the federal level and the obstruction part of it. And I'll show you Ty Cobb here. We have more in regard to Trump's legal troubles to discuss after this, but really interesting. Again, this is Trump's former lawyer, Ty Cobb.
What do you think the actual charges will be, and in them, would Trump be looking at jail time?
So I wouldn't, if it was me, based on my own prosecutorial career, I would not necessarily expand the case to try to prove the Espionage Act piece of it, because there's so much evidence of guilty knowledge on the espionage piece that all they really have to do is show that Trump moved these documents at various times when DOJ was either demanding them or actually present, that he filed falsely with the Justice Department, had his lawyers file falsely with the Justice Department an affidavit to the effect that none existed, which was shattered by the documents that they then discovered after the search, and the many other misrepresentations that he and others have made on his behalf with regard to his possession of classified documents. So I think this obstruction case is a tight case. And yes, I do think he'll go to jail on it.
So definitely super interesting coming from a former Trump lawyer. And I tend to agree that it's an airtight case, even just based on the public information we have, the evidence that's been reported on. And we don't know what Jack Smith has that we haven't seen yet. Because when it comes to the obstruction, it seems abundantly clear Trump knew he had the classified documents that were being looked for. And also abundantly clear that after he got a subpoena and documents were turned over, but not all of them, 40 boxes I think it was that were turned over, and he still had so many more. He was aware of the fact that federal authorities were looking for all the classified documents, but made the decision to withhold a large batch of them, obstructing that process, lying to authorities about the fact that, which he told the federal authorities through his lawyer, I don't have any documents left. But that did not seem to be, or definitely wasn't, the case. So that seems like you could prove it pretty easily, and it's against the law. We'll see how it all plays out. But more information on this is from The Guardian. Federal prosecutors have evidence Donald Trump was put on notice that he could not retain any classified documents after he was subpoenaed for their return last year, as they examine whether the subsequent failure to fully comply with the subpoena was a deliberate act of obstruction by the former president. The previously unreported warning conveyed to Trump by his lawyer Evan Corcoran could be significant in the criminal investigation surrounding Trump's handling of classified materials, given it shows he knew about his subpoena obligations. So here, we're now learning that Evan Corcoran notified Trump after the subpoena, and as Trump still had a lot of classified documents, that if you have any more, they have to be turned over. So that would be so clearly indicating Trump's knowledge that he was obstructing, which is pretty significant. And then I want to get to, while we're talking about Trump's legal situation, a moment from a recent interview on CNN with another one of Trump's former lawyers, now very recently left the legal team. This is Timothy Parlatore, who, as CNN writes, former Donald Trump attorney Timothy Parlatore, who departed the president's legal team earlier this week, said Saturday he left because of infighting among the group. The real reason is because there are certain individuals that made defending the president much harder than it needed to be. In particular, there's one individual who works for him, Boris Epshteyn, who had really done everything he could to try to block us, to prevent us from doing what we could to defend the president. So because of his beefing, we'll say, with Boris Epshteyn and maybe others around Trump in Trump's circle, he felt like he couldn't do his job as Trump's lawyer. And this is giving us more and more of a picture of what we kind of likely expected, of just how messy, but the behind the scenes of Trump's legal situation, his team, his staffers, all of that, as they deal with this moment, this situation, how messy it all is. But here's this from CNN with Trump's now former lawyer.
Infighting is certainly nothing new in Trump world. Is there any specific instance of something that he did to, as you say, prevent you from being able to properly represent your client?
Oh, sure. I mean, he served as kind of a filter to prevent us from getting information to the client and getting information from the client. In my opinion, he was not very honest with us or with the client on certain things. There were certain things like the searches that he had attempted to interfere with. And then,
so this is him referring to Boris Epstein, one of Trump's staffers, getting in the way, as he saw, of his ability to do his job, including a search to see if they could find more classified documents to make sure after the raid they weren't still breaking the law.
And more recently, as we're coming down to the end of this investigation where Jack Smith and ultimately Merrick Garland is going to make a decision as to what to do, as we put together our defense strategy to help educate Merrick Garland as to how best to handle this matter, he was preventing us from engaging in that strategy.
You said that Boris tried to prevent you from conducting searches. What searches are those?
This is the searches at Bedminster initially. There was a lot of pushback from him where he didn't want us doing the search, and we had to eventually overcome him.
Why didn't he want you doing the search?
I don't know. Boris is, he is a lawyer. He spent about 18 months at a big firm doing transactional work, and I think he just thinks based on the experience he knows better than all of us.
It just doesn't look good for Trump. I know all of our default just has to be he's not going to be held accountable like we want him to be. There's no way he's going to be taken down by these investigations. That's just kind of the knee-jerk response by everyone because of how jaded maybe we are now and how beat down our souls are after watching, not just with Trump, but with so many powerful individuals and the way that they're not properly held accountable. And Trump's a good example of someone who has been able to avoid accountability for so long. And so we try to, for the sake of not getting our hopes up, assume he's going to be able to get out of everything. But I think that he is going to be in a lot of trouble, a lot of devastating legal situations over the course of the next months and years. Georgia, I think, is the next batch of charges out of the investigation, out of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and that being in regard to his attempts to overturn the 2020 election results in the state of Georgia and pressure election officials and all of that. And then after that, federal charges when it comes to Jack Smith's investigation. Now, how that will impact his presidential run, we'll just see. But priority one is accountability. We'll see how the politics plays out after that, but accountability is so necessary, and we will see if that's what ends up taking place.